Time for the Friday free kick. Time to catch up with the captain, Michael Parkhurst from Beyond Goals Mentoring at BG Mentoring on the Twitters and all of your social media. Please follow along and please follow MF Parkhurst 14, I believe, on the Twitters as well. Cap, good to have you for another Friday.
Morning, John. Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, so let's get into Atlanta United a little bit and a couple of different things. I don't want to necessarily get into the match itself and all of its intricacies over 90 minutes, but the difficulties of going up against someone like Red Bulls. And I guess the best way that I can explain it or just kind of come up with an analogy, it's like for fans of college football, in the SEC or wherever you are, you got folks running spread. They're doing, pro set and all these other kinds of things that you're used to seeing. And then all of a sudden you have to play Army or you have to play the Naval Academy on that Saturday. What's it like preparing for something that is as odd a duck as the Red Bull system?
Yeah, it's challenging and it's difficult and it's different. And it takes experience playing against them to understand how good they are at it, how efficient they can be, and how relentless it is. Because I think when you're preparing for that game, if you haven't played against them before, you're like, oh, well, they'll die off after a little bit, or, we'll be able to play through it, or we'll be able to do this or that. I'll have more time than I think. And then you play against them and you realize it's nonstop. This is how they do it. This is how they play. And they're very good at it. They're very committed to it. And if you're not prepared for it physically and mentally, you will realize that you're going to give up chances on the break and they're going to be on you all game. And, they're just relentless. And so, it's a difficult one. And that's, I think, why we've struggled there for basically our whole existence, other than a playoff loss that was a win.
When you look at your mentees in a situation like this, I guess the lesson here is always be prepared and do that little extra bit of studying, knowing that something different may come down the line. I guess what's the lesson for a mentee knowing an opponent is going to be different and they're all the way over on one side of the scale when it comes to everything else you might see?
Yeah, I think there's a couple lessons. One is, preparation is key. And I know that when you're younger, you don't have access to like every video out there like professionals do and things. But I think that you can learn things quickly in a game if your eyes are open and you're mentally prepared and sharp. You can remember things about teams you've played in the past, but also to realize that different isn't good or bad, right? One of the things I always like to say is like, there's so many different ways to do everything in life. And there's different ways to play the position of center back. I was a prime example. Like I played the position much different than, your prototypical center back, yet had success. And so just like every other position on the field, and then further, like every team that plays, you can have success doing things differently. There's not one way to have success in anything in life. It's about adapting. And so I think when you play the Red Bulls or a team that's different, you have to adapt. And that might mean, broadening your horizons and saying, hey, I'm going to play a little safer today. I'm going to play a little more long balls. We're going to play in some channels. I'm going to play the goalie a little bit more than I usually do, or whatever it might be. But not to think like, oh, these guys can't keep it up, or oh, this is a crazy way to play, or oh, this is nuts. I think you have to toe the line of giving them credit for what they're very good at and adapting how you can play to, your strengths, and take advantage of some of their weaknesses. I always like to play the Red Bulls. I always love to drop off. Right? Just drop off, let them have the ball, right? They don't really want the ball. It's not their style. They're not very good at breaking down teams. So I always thought, just drop in our own half and turn the counterattack against them. Right. There's that's the beauty of soccer, right? There's just so many different ways to play the game and the tactics that go into it.
I was going to ask you, do you remember the first time that you played Red Bulls and experienced their version of soccer cooties when it came to offense?
Yeah, it was with the Columbus Crew, and at the time, Greg Berhalter was our coach, and so obviously playing out of the back was, of utmost importance, and that's what we drilled it. And we were naive in the beginning. We thought, we can play out of it, we can play out of it, we can take advantage, and of course, you can play out of a good press. It's possible. You have to be clean, and you have to do things quickly and efficiently, but I think the lesson that we learned was, if they're going to press you 10 times and a half and you break that press 8 times, those 8 times you break it may lead to 1 or 2 chances. The 2 times you don't break it lead to 2 chances. Right. So there's a real risk reward balance going on when you play the Red Bulls, and understanding, is it worth this risk to maybe create a chance, 80 yards down the field, versus if we give up this ball right now, they have a chance within 30 yards at our goal. So, I think that once we understood that, that's when we were able to beat them in the playoffs and win the Eastern Conference Final.
The other aspect of all of this with travel and Atlanta United here in this little stretch is that the schedule makers paired them up. You've got Harrison, New Jersey, and then you get to hang out in New York and travel actually to Yankee Stadium. NYCFC gets the first time back-to-back home games here in 2022, and all we are is July 1st as you and I are talking. When it comes to, and there are a couple of different things here that popped into my head. When it comes to travel in general and you've got gap space, how long did it take you to understand the idea of, okay, we're on the road for a while, we're not going up, coming back, we're staying, and then we're taking care of business on the second time? How different is travel with gap space when you don't go home and have a chance to reset versus being in one place for an extended period of time, knowing that there are more than one job that you have to do?
Yeah, I always thought MLS schedule makers should do more of this. I really like that they did this. It's even better when it's on the West Coast, right? So you only have to go west, on one sort of trip. I always thought, man, if we're going to go out west, let's play 2 games while we're out here. Let's get a Wednesday, Saturday game or Wednesday, Sunday, and get 2 games over with on one trip. So in that aspect, I would like the fact that you're going to play midweek games throughout the season. It's going to happen, right? So, if they're 2 away games, I'd rather them be, close like they are right now, and you don't have to travel, right? Because the tough thing about travel is the recovery aspect, especially between games. So the nice thing about it is they can recover today, right? They don't have to deal with getting on planes and jet lag or, early mornings or anything like that, right? They can recover where they are, have a normal day, normal meal times, all that stuff. And the first 24 hours, like we know, is so crucial to that recovery. So I think that that's really nice and really important for them, since, they've got a day less than New York City to recover for the game on the weekend. So in that regard, I like it. If I was on the team, I would have preferred to stay in New York and just do that rather than kind of go up and back, up and back. Living out of a hotel, guys get used to it. It's not too bad. They take good care of you, stay in nice hotels, good food. So in that regard, it's okay. And I think recovery between these 2 short games is the most important thing. And this sets them up well for that.
What about for younger players? Because it might be one of those first times, and I'm even talking away from an MLS perspective, the young guys who are going to Super Cups or MLS Next, and they get that, when folks were my age, we called them field trips, where you had permission slips and you sit there and you get to go to Mammoth Cave or someplace like that, and you're away from home, you're away from your parents, all of these kinds of things. When you have discussions with younger players about being away from home, I mean, there's a bunch of different things that you can talk about here. It's about responsibility, inward and outward, and being there for your teammates and all those kinds of things. I mean, this is one of those things for younger players specifically that they've really got to learn. And this is one of those first chances to do that when you are away from home.
Definitely. And I spoke to a couple of Atlanta United guys about this not too long ago, because they've had some trips for tournaments and end of season playoff stuff. And one of the things I tell them is that, there's a fine line between having fun with your buddies, and this is a business trip, even though you're not working yet and you're not a professional yet. But I tell them, you will have more fun if you win. And so if you take care of yourself off the field and you get the rest that you need, and you do things the right way, and you prepare yourself the right way, right, you'll have more success on the field. And if, you guys as a team have more success and make a run, and win some games, you will look back and remember that tournament as fun and exciting and all those things. When you're in market and you've got a ton of time to hang out with buddies off the field and go have fun and do whatever you want off the field and be a kid and relax and enjoy yourself, right? But when you get one of these opportunities to go to a tournament and play against some of the other great kids around the country, you have to realize that it takes a different sort of attitude, right? A little bit more of a serious tone of, and you want to still be a kid and enjoy yourself and have fun. I'm not saying that, but just to prepare yourself and make sure that you're taking care of yourself and not just goofing around and staying up all night and playing video games all day or whatever, young kids do, right? You have to take care of yourself and prepare yourself, because ultimately, if you go on the field and you're not prepared, you're letting your teammates down, you're letting coaches down, and family that traveled out there or paid for it or whatever. So you want to take advantage of those opportunities. And I always say that you'll never regret doing too much, but you'll regret if you didn't do enough or you didn't take it serious enough when you look back.
When you look at Yankee Stadium, and I know I'm bouncing back and forth here with topics, when you look at Yankee Stadium as a playing surface that is abnormal, and I'm just going to go ahead and use the word, it ain't reg. It is not regulation. Peter Vermees stepped it all. It's under 70. When you have to play in a bandbox like that, or a U12 pitch, which a lot of folks have referenced in the past, how different is it knowing that, yes, I know that all surfaces are different, some are wider than others, but when you have to squeeze yourself into this compact car, this is a Yugo of playing spaces here. And I know I'm using a lot of references that some folks may get, and others will sit there and go, what? That's your Google search for today, kids. When you have to go into a compact car space like Yankee Stadium, how difficult is it to prepare knowing that you're used to a set length, something close, and then you're in Yankee Stadium and it's like, this ain't what I'm used to?
Mm-hmm. It's challenging. I'm not going to lie. That's why it's one of the toughest places to play. That's why nobody really likes playing there. And that's why New York City is very successful there. Because when you play there for your first or second time, you really don't understand how narrow it is, how small it is. And also the field's on a little bit of a weird angle with the outfield. So offsides line is strange as well. So you think that you can play. And then when you get out there on the field, you're like, holy smokes, this thing's so small. I've got no time to play. I can't play. But New York City have accepted it, and they've realized, like, even though it's small, we can play. Like, we can still do this. And you can see that they're able to still play, unlike most of the teams that go there. So it's very advantageous for them. But it goes back to also, like, you control the things you can control, and there's other things that you can't control. And the field size is one that you can't control. The table doesn't care that you're playing at New York City. The table doesn't care that the field's small. New York City doesn't care that the field's small. You're going to play on the field no matter what. So it's a question of, how can you adapt to it and get on with it and not look at it like, oh, poor me, poor us, we have to go play on this. This is a built-in excuse. Well, every team in the Eastern Conference, at least, is going to go play there. And some teams will get results. So, why can't you be one of those teams, right? So as tough as it is, it's not an excuse anymore. They've been there for years. And so you have to get on with it and try and play. But again, you have to adapt. You can't assume that you can play exactly how you always play at Yankee Stadium.
Do you have to, and I mean, what's it like on the fly? Because it seems like at times at Yankee Stadium, it's almost like pinball, and you have to think, since the field is that much smaller, you have to think in proportion that much faster, if that makes any sense. So it's like if the field is 20% smaller, you've got to think, 1 second faster out of every five to get something done. I mean, it seems like we've talked about odd ducks this morning with Red Bulls in their system and now with NYC in their stadium. It's just, these are the challenges that you have to embrace. But at the same time, are you more mentally exhausted leaving a situation like this because you have to be as on as you seem to be?
Yeah, I think so. Right. Because there's less space for guys to cover. So you're right. Guys are able to close down passing lanes better. They're able to, attack you faster on the defensive side of the ball. So you have to be quicker, right? They've got less space defending to cover. So they're going to be on you quicker. So the decision making thus needs to happen faster. So you're right. And yes, it is a mental game. It's a mental game to, adjust to the pitch size, but at the same time, not think about it and not have that built-in excuse, and find ways to work around it and get in behind. Right, New York City does it. They find gaps. I mean, Maxi Morales is so good at finding the little spaces on that small field, and you look and you're like, God, how is this guy open? Like, there's not much space on this field, yet he finds it. And Castellanos still gets in behind, even though there's not that much space to get in behind. He's still able to find runs in behind, right? So it's doable, and so things do happen fast. Transitions happen a lot quicker. So you have to be mentally ready all the time. So yeah, I agree. It can be draining mentally.
For Atlanta United, coming off of the loss against Red Bulls, they're going to NYC. They get Thiago Almada back. And for Gonzalo Pineda, with all of these matches in this very short period of time, you're really testing your guys. And it's like, what can you give me? And I think that with NYC coming up, the idea that Joseph didn't play a whole lot, Marcelino Moreno didn't play a whole lot, came in late as a sub, later than Joseph. You get Almada back, and Luis Arujo, I think Luis Arujo is officially a Cyberdyne Systems Model 101 cyborg. He is an absolute robot out there. I don't know where he gets his reserves. Maybe he just plugs into a wall socket or something. But I think that with Atlanta United, with the firepower that they have up top, I definitely could see a rapid fire 78 RPM track meet with the four guys that Atlanta United have, with everybody with NYC chasing spaces. I mean, this one really could be one of those tennis matches that we've looked at in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. It could be. And both teams play good soccer. Both teams, I think, are two of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. I think there's opportunities there. I mean, New York City just gave up 4 goals, close to 5 against Cincinnati. So, there's opportunities there for sure. And yeah, I agree. I like the fact that Joseph and Marcia were rested, and we still almost got a result against Red Bull. And having Thiago come back is nice. So hopefully he's fresh. Can fit right back in. And this is a good game for him, right? We talk about tight spaces and decision making and combining quickly, right? That sets up well for Almada. That's his type of game. So with him and Marcy and Joseph in there connecting, and yeah, I agree. Luis has got an engine on him, and that's really nice. And thankfully in this game, it's a little bit less running because of just the size of the field. So it's not all that bad, honestly, if it turns into hey, the U7 or 8 can defend and defend well, and U3 or 4, can you create some things up front, and get maybe a 5th in every now and then and take some opportunities. But the nice thing about this, the way that this worked out, is having the smaller field for the second game, can help out a little bit as far as fitness wise.
One of the last things that I wanted to catch up with you this week about is about all of the new splashy signings that we're seeing here in Major League Soccer. Gareth Bale did the LAFC tilt which means I guess he's official. When you tilt your head up when you're wearing the cap and you show your face, I guess that means you're official. Insigne and Crescito heading to Toronto FC. So 230-somethings are going to be helping a team that has defensive issues. Insert the tail end of your sentence there. And you're looking at more big-name guys coming over. The Carlos Vela re-signs with LAFC, and one of the biggest question marks that we could have had with a possible in-season free agency for the first time ever. But you're getting big names coming over once again to play Major League Soccer. Chiellini with LAFC as well. 30-somethings coming over to play, where I think a lot of folks thought that Major League Soccer was getting into this where they're developing from within, and you're seeing teams like Atlanta United developing from within with younger talent. But you have teams in Los Angeles and Toronto who are more than willing to splash the cash to bring in 30-somethings that they think will help them out. What do you think about these 30-somethings coming over to help Major League Soccer, as Major League Soccer was getting away from being that league of 30-somethings in the retirement league that folks gave it to the designation for? And yes, I did use air quotes for those who are listening.
Well, first I'll say, I think that all the signings were good signings. I think there, like I said earlier, there's more than one way to have success. And, I think the long-term model is still get younger players and exciting players and that you can possibly sell on again in the future, and guys you can build around like that. But that doesn't mean that there's not a spot still in Major League Soccer for 30-year-olds or young 30-year-olds to come over here and still have success. I mean, the way the game's going, the way that guys take care of their bodies, I mean, you can play into your mid to late 30s now at a high level and have success. And I really like the LAFC signings because I feel like both of them are kind of shorter term contracts, and they're saying, hey, we're in a position to win right now. Let's get after it. Let's win one or two championships. Let's really try and make something of this window that we have here with what's going on. And so I really like that aspect of it, because I think Chiellini still can give you something there on the defensive side of the ball, and Bale on the offensive side. I think at least for the rest of this season, he'll be motivated with the World Cup coming up. So I think, kudos to them for going after it and spending a little bit of money. They're not, those two aren't DPs right now. I think Bale probably will be a DP next year. But it's I think good business as far as like, hey, we want to win the championship this year. We're in a position to do that, so we're going to get stronger. And if that's the thought process, you've got a better chance of that succeeding with bringing in some older Europeans than you do with some young South Americans, because as we've seen, it takes some time to adapt for some players, and the younger you are, sometimes the more time it takes to adapt, right? If it's your first time out of the country, and dealing with a new environment and new team and new system and all that. So, for those signings, I thought it was great. Insigne still, I think, is a very good player. He's expensive, but, I think that he's still probably got a few years at a top level in him. But I think that the good thing is that there's not one exact model that leads to success. I think Atlanta United bucked the trend when they came in and did what they did, and showed that, hey, this can lead to success. But there's definitely still room for those older veteran style Europeans. So I thought good signings overall for the league.
And I think that one of the comparisons that I gave with Gareth Bale was Marcus Allen, where Marcus Allen was with the Raiders. And since Al Davis was mad at Marcus Allen, basically the last 2 years of his career for the Raiders, he sat. Al Davis is like, I'm not playing Marcus Allen. So when Marcus Allen goes to the Chiefs, he hadn't played in 2 years. And so he was 2 years fresher going to Kansas City and helped them do whatever it was that they were doing. And so that, for me, is the interesting question for Bale. With Chiellini, I wonder if he has to be protected because of his age. And I know that there's you have I think 75 folks at the back for LAFC that they can plug in any situation, including a name that's pretty familiar with Atlanta United fans. I think that LAFC's is interesting. Toronto, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, this is a point that I've made a lot. They will spend money if they think that they can spend money and get something out of it. Because when the Insigne showed up in Toronto, he goes to the Italian neighborhood. He's at the Italian restaurant, and there's the big picture with him, and he's on the platform, and it's just walls of people heading like 9 neighborhoods back, all the way back to the CN Tower. So, I'm interested about what Toronto wants to do to try to get into the playoff picture, and LAFC, like you said, to chase a championship.
Yeah, Toronto's in a weird spot right now. They've transitioned. They used to be one of the top teams in MLS, and they've fallen off hard. Harder than I thought, especially with Bob coming in. So it's strange. The signing obviously will give them some lift off the field for sure. I think they're expanding that stadium again soon, so that's important for them to make sure that they're bringing in the fans to support that,
and for the World Cup too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. The World Cup. You're right. So yeah, we'll see how he fits in. You're right. He's not going to help things on the defensive side of the ball, but then again, when you bring in somebody like that, and I've said this about Joseph, he holds guys accountable. You don't want to let a guy down like that. He demands a certain level. So then all of a sudden, everyone raises their level on the team. So maybe Toronto can get something like that out of their team with that signing or those signings. But yeah, I can't figure out Toronto, honestly, what they're trying to do and where they're going. And it's a strange one for me.
No doubt about it. We'll keep an eye on that. With kids out of school and then summer vacation time, which means it's summertime to play, especially to catch up with folks like you. What's the latest with Beyond Goals and catching up with your mentees?
Yeah, right now, just in check-in mode, making sure that, honestly, that kids are being kids here in the summer, right? Hey, touch a ball and, figure out where you can improve slightly, right? If that's fitness, if that's in the gym, if that's, doing some core work, doing some stretching, whatever it is, a couple days a week, right? But not thinking that you have to train 5, 6, 7 times a week in order to stay up, right? Be a kid, right? Go swim, go have fun, go on vacation, go hang out with buddies, play in the neighborhood, enjoy yourself. You only get these opportunities once to be young and have fun, right? And if you set small little goals to improve in small little areas, right, it'll still be beneficial once the season kicks up again.
Play till the lights come on. That's the way it always used to be. Mike, great to catch up with you as always this week at BG Mentoring on the Twitters and on Instagram and on Facebook, Beyond Goals Mentoring, beyondgoalsmentoring.com. Thanks for hanging out with us for another week. We will catch up with you in short order.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.